5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And it's live.
This is Leicester Till I Die TV. Watch and subscribe on YouTube and listen on your podcast platform.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good night, good day, goodbye. Hello. One of those will apply to you wherever you reside in the world. Trying to make it a little bit different there. Welcome to tonight's episode of Holby City. Because you may remember the other day Steve was not well. Well, let's say that Steve isn't generous and that he doesn't share the love because whatever he had, I've now got. And I live a couple of 100 miles away. So he was pretty sure that I was going to get it. Was going to go and see my granddaughter today. I can't. So between the pair of us, we'll be coughing, snivelling, blowing our noses throughout the show. It is a review show. Coming to you on a different night because obviously we played last night. Just leading into that, because we got quite a fiery post-match reaction to the show last night, mainly by me. I'm not going to deny it. I probably bit the bait a little bit too much, but I just get a little annoyed when, and I don't know whether, I suppose this is certain fans at every club, always want things to be the worst. I mean, I'm sure a lot of those fans last night want us to lose maybe 19 points when, we get the points deduction November. So it just gives them something to moan about. But this is what I want to say, because I'd say I do get this feeling that the natives, it seems, are getting very restless. We're only 8 games into the new season, and it seems that some Leicester fans, not all, but some Leicester fans are turning on their manager and team. But let's look at where we have come from. It's only been 130 days since we had the worst season we ever have had in the Premier League, a season in which we set new standards for being bad. First team ever to go 9 consecutive home league matches without scoring in top-flight English football. We hold that record. We also hold the record being the first team to ever lose 7 home game matches in a row without scoring at home, extended to 9 home games without scoring after relegation was confirmed. We conceded the first goal in 25 of our first 30 league matches, breaking a 32-year-old Premier League record held, as it happens, by Ipswich Town. We recorded our worst ever goal difference in the Premier League history, and that is a -47. We conceded, ready for this, 80 goals over the season, which is the most we've ever conceded in a top-flight season. That's not just the Premier League. That was when it was Division 1 as well. We've conceded more goals last season than at any time in our history. Our last manager, you may remember him, yes, the international superstar that was Ruud van Nistelrooy, probably the worst manager in our history. And I remember the Frank McClintock season. So again, just 130 days ago, we ended the season without... let me get this right. So again, 130 days ago, we ended the season with, and this is under Ruud van Nistelrooy, an average goal conceded ratio of 2.36 per game. That is now 0.87. An average goal scored ratio of 0.82 per game, and that is now 1.25. In 25 league games under Ruud van Nistelrooy, we scored 17 goals. 17 in 25. And that's when your manager has got the record for having held the second most goals scored in consecutive matches. And our striker was the guy that holds the record for the most goals in consecutive matches. We've now got 10 in 8. We managed one win in 17 consecutive matches under Ruud van Nistelrooy. 4 wins in 25 in total under him. It's now 3 in 8 under Marty, 4 if you include Fiorentina. In those 25 games under Ruud van Nistelrooy, we kept just 2 clean sheets. Now we've kept 3 in 8 and 4 again if you include that friendly with Fiorentina. We've also lost some first-team players, Elkanous, Hermansson, McAteer, Justin, Ndidi, Cody, Vardy, Everson, and all right, these aren't great losses, but I have to include them, Ward and Koulibaly. And I don't think necessarily we've replaced them with players that are as good as them. We made over £70 million in sales, that to be confirmed, obviously, because some of them are undisclosed. None of that money was spent on incomings, with all the incomings arriving on a free. We had one geriatric goalkeeper in Bekovic, who played no games at all last season, and who I thought might be brought in to be a future goalkeeper coach. We've just signed one, so he's not even going to be doing that. Another stopper in Francisco Vietes, I probably pronounced that wrong, who in 2 seasons with Betis played just 8 times, and along with the striker who was knocking them in for fun in America. Yeah, I think with that one, we've been there, seen it, got the T-shirt. Ramsey, though, should be a good prospect if he doesn't get sent off every other game. And I think we are all excited by our new JJ. So forgive me if after 8 league games this season, 3 of which were wins, 4 draws and just the 1 loss, I'm not panicking so much. We're probably never going to do an Enzo and come straight back up, especially with the points deduction looming. But we could have done a Luton. We could possibly do a Leeds and return after 2 seasons. But be honest, how many of you 130 days ago weren't thinking, do you know what? We could do a Luton here if we're not careful. Suddenly we think we are primetime Barcelona. I don't know where that comes from, because like I say, we've got rid of some of our best players. We haven't got a striker that can score a decent amount of goals that we've seen at the moment. But you know what as well? What Martin's done when he's come in is he's sorted the defence out. Any manager that comes in and to a team that's performing badly, that's the first thing they've got to do. Yes, we're letting in silly goals. We still are. But it's a hell of a lot less than we were letting in last season. And you know what? It doesn't matter if we kept Jamie Vardy and he was going to score 20 a season. If we're conceding 80 still, it doesn't fucking matter how many we're scoring. So let's just rein it in and let's just think. Are we being realistic? Did you really, really think after last season that we were going to go straight back up and do an Enzo? And I know what people are saying, well, you know what, last season we were playing Premier League clubs. Well, fucking hell, we were a Premier League club. Look at the players that I've named that we've just lost. Once you get past the top 6, all those teams are much of a muchness. Look at Wolves and look at Villa this season. And, people say, well, these were the players we had 2 years ago when we were in the Championship. Yeah, and as everybody reminded me last season, they're all 2 years older as well. So let's calm down and let's not go panicky. 4 draws in a row? We would have bitten your cock off for that last season. Let's be honest. I think I've calmed down, got it off my chest. Let's get my co-host in and we will actually talk about the game. We'll bring Steve in and let's talk Leicester. Oh, let me bring him in. There you go. Steve, you're full of a cold like I am. Thank you so much for sharing.
Oh, am I muted? Oh, there you go. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
There we
you
go.
were, but you're not
That's
now.
okay. You're more than welcome to it, Chris. It's if I've had to deal with it and watch last night in the cold, then you can deal with it where you are.
Fair enough. I wasn't stood in the cold. I was sat in a nice warm room watching it last night. Michael just says we were in the Premier League last season. Didn't I say that? I thought I said that, Michael.
You did
That
say
was
that.
my
You did
point.
say that.
Yeah, that was my point. I'm so glad people were listening. And the blue tinted glasses, I guess this is locked. Hi mate, how you doing? Agree completely, Chris. Marty's the man. Thank you. At least somebody agrees with me. I was on my own last night, and I'm not saying that, and we'll talk about the match in general first, but I'm not saying that, I wasn't disappointed that we only came away with a point. We should have gone on and won that game, having been 1-0 up. And that was probably the first half, was probably the best 45 minutes of football I've seen this season from us. But I didn't get the vitriol that I was seeing over social media, people in the chat on the watch along were giving, because it's still a darn sight better than it was last season. And we're not going to become primetime Barcelona overnight, are we?
No. I want to preface my reaction to last night's performance by saying I don't blame Marty for the way the players are on the pitch. He's the manager, so at the end of the day, the book always stops with him, doesn't it? With fans,
Yeah.
And when something's not going right, the first thing the club does is sack the manager, because you can't sack players because they're assets. So
Yeah.
I've still backed Marty. I think he's been given a terrible hand already, having to sell some of his players, and he probably wanted more of the players out than he actually got out in the end in the transfer window.
Yeah. You are breaking up a little bit, mate. You're going loud, soft, loud.
Is that better? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
So and he probably wanted to sign more players, because this is a squad from 2 years ago, and also from last year. So it's not his players, and it's not his squad at all. The only thing that he should really take responsibility for is the subs, because he's the one that made those subs last night that took away the intensity in the middle of the park. And the midfield sort of. The main issue is the midfield there. We lost all control of the game when we took off Di Cordoveri, which I didn't think I'd ever say in my life.
No, you and me both, mate.
Yeah, because he had to take Thomas off because he was looking like he was going to get a red card, so Christensen was the obvious choice there. And then I guess going top at sort of 70 odd 80th minute is sort of desperate, really. With Ayew and Carranza, who really haven't shown an attacking intent at all this season. So I think for me, it's more of the point that I'm disappointed to be getting 4 draws in a row when they're teams that we should be beating if we were to get promoted this season. And I know you said the benchmark is last season, but for me, because the same players that are here, it would really be the year that, because we're against the same teams to an extent.
They're all those players are 2 years older.
Exactly. So, but I think last season was an anomaly on the sorry, I know what
you mean. Anomaly.
It was so poor that I know you can't write it off as a fan, because we still got most of the players here, but losing Enzo in the summer and bringing in Steve Cooper to change the style of play entirely, and then backing him in the window with all that money, bringing in the dross that we brought in under Steve Cooper's guys, that he wanted these players to be experienced Premier League players, so that's why we signed them. To then sack him after 12 games and bring in Ruvan Nistelrooy. Last season was a shit show from start to finish. Sorry, it's not past the watershed yet, but it was awful. And we all had a lot of high hopes for this season. And look, we're still in the playoffs.
Sorry, just to come on that. You say we have high hopes for this season. Where do those hopes come from?
So I think
that I just read out has had all those records which we don't want.
Yeah,
we were more likely to do a Luton than a Burnley.
No, but I guess what we mean by that is that we all wanted a manager that would bring the youth players through and give them a chance. And we played Monga last night, who was 16. But since the Birmingham game, we've not seen Louis Page, because he got injured. But he's back fully fit now, and he's back training in the under-21s. Ben Nelson hasn't been given a chance because Vestergaard is ahead of him, for whatever reason. Look, I think Vestergaard's played well so far this season, but if you were to give me a choice of playing Vestergaard over Ben Nelson and stifling his development, I'd pick Nelson all day. You know, and there's a Luco in the under 21s that we've seen in preseason that would look like they were part of the squad. So I think the main sort of frustration for me is that we had a manager that came in, and we're all happy that he came in. He was making decisions, and he wanted certain players out, and he wanted players in. And he also said that he'd want to promote the youth as well. And it's just, that's the frustrating bit. You know, we're seeing the same plays over and over again, and that for me is like, come on, like, you know, I want to see the young lads that care, not so much the Wout Fass and the Samare and, you know, these players that just don't really care about the club.
No, I look, frustrating is the word, and I will accept frustrating. And your microphone's still coming in and going out, mate, on the sound. I'm just going to, while you're doing that, I'm just going to read these 2 points out that I've starred. Delaeus has said, we have not sorted out the back line. No, we haven't, but it's better than it was. And this is what I keep saying. And you're telling me, you know, that we're playing Premier League teams. Fuck off. No, the teams we were playing, yes, we were in the Premier League, but then so were we a Premier League team. And then people are going to turn around and go, oh, no, we were a championship team because we got promoted. No, you can't have it rule 1 for one and rule 2 for the other. We played Premier League teams because we were a Premier League team. The managers were absolutely crap. And Craig says there, we do also have the same back line as last season. Yes, and the fact that we've kept 3 clean sheets so far this season with the same back line that kept 2 in 25 games last season, and we've suddenly kept 3 in 8, it's an improvement, but it's not going to happen overnight. It's baby steps. And the other thing that pissed me off, to be honest with you, Steve, is people are, what the fucking hell is Daka doing on? What the fucking hell is Bobby Takova-Reid? We're going to lose this, blah, blah, blah. We haven't seen Daka start all season. We haven't seen Bobby Takova-Reid start all season. And look, I said all these players will get my support under the new manager until they prove that they are still shit. Daka, I'm not saying he is suddenly Alan Shearer reborn, but he had a pretty decent game last night. You know, Gazza-esque the way he just missed 2 of those crosses by probably the length of his boot. And as you said, Bobby Takova-Reid had a bloody good match.
Yeah,
and I just think, you know, we were accused by a lot of other clubs of having entitled fans because we won that 10 years ago. You know, that we've got this thing that we should all be, you know, this best team and we should be challenging every season. Very much turning into Manchester United fans. And that's because that was, 11, 12 seasons ago now. So a lot of the fans that are coming on board have only known success. Right?
Yeah.
And that they expect, and that's the problem with Manchester United. I'm disappointed, frustrated with last night, but we got a point. And if we go up by a single point this season, saying that we're going to get this points deduction, not saying that will be the game, but it will, you know, it would be one of the draws which would have got us over the line.
Yeah, I think you make a very good point. Is that better now? Can you hear me?
That's better. Yeah, that's a lot better. Thank you.
Yeah, I think you make a very good point that a lot of the things we see online on social media, you know, it's a bit of a vacuum, really, isn't it? Social media, because not every single Leicester fan is on social media. So, and the majority of the reaction I saw were sort of people that were actually fairly on the fence about it, saying, "Look, it wasn't good enough, but you know, it's still a work in progress," which is good. But you are right in the sense of, and this isn't like every single sort of younger fan that we've got, because I don't want to tar them all with the same brush.
No.
But I've noticed that online, that, you know, the fans that have been following us for the last sort of 12, 13 years don't remember the terrible times we had, you know, during the early 2000s, because they probably weren't around back then, or they weren't interested in football because they were too young. And that's not an issue. That's not their fault. You know, that's how football is, and you can't help when you're born.
No.
But I do agree that, you know, that there is some sense of entitlement around our fan base at times in regards to expecting certain things. And like, I can be, you know, guilty of it myself. I'm quite reactionary online at times. But
I follow
Like,
you. I
right.
would notice. Yes.
What I tend to find is that I'm reactionary in the moment, but once I get home and I've calmed down, actually, I can have a solid conversation and be like, I can see people's points. Because another thing is that everyone has an opinion, and we might not all agree, but we're all entitled to that opinion at the end of the day. And you know, as long as we're all respectful about it, then I'm happy. You know,
Yeah.
but yeah, like during a game, I'm quite reactionary, but at home, when I've calmed down and you know I'm thinking about it as an
Yeah.
overall thing, look, you know, a point's a point. We weren't great in the second half, and I think we actually got lucky to come away with a point because they could have nicked it at the end.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I don't know. Your microphone's still doing that.
Oh, bloody hell! Come back.
Yeah, I know, no problem, mate. Yeah, I'll see you in a minute. poor Steve. And yeah, it's just that it's the fact, and I'm going to ask Steve this when he gets back. You know, and I'm only going to have to not just off social media. And yes, not everybody. We know what social media is like, but also the people that were in the chat last night. Last night when I was doing the watch along, you know, it's we love a player to fail. It used to be Chilwell, then it was Luke Thomas, now it's Daka. Now he's rubbish. I agree, he is rubbish, but last night he actually had a reasonably decent game and was unlucky. He was getting in the box more than AU did. And people were still coming on going, oh, he's crap. Why is he playing? Because we've got to try these different things. And, I can't understand these fans that want to see players fail. Yeah, not a problem, Steve. I can't understand these fans that want to see players fail because they don't like them. Look, let me tell you this. Like I say, everybody hated Chilwell, and yet he was England's number one first choice left back. But we hated him. He was crap, wasn't good enough for us. Oh, that is an argument about the last England manager and all that. But, he can't be that bad. And I think sometimes, look, last season, everybody that follows me will know my thoughts on Wout Faes. He's not my favourite player by a long stroke. And he's never going to give me a long stroke, let me just tell you that. But he's not my favourite player. But last season, he actually had one game he really played well. And I gave him the man of the match. Because on that game, he actually had a decent match. But what these fans are doing is they're not giving these players a chance. And he's back. I was just saying, Steve, welcome back.
Hello.
Anna. Now, I'll let you know when you get talking whether it's working or not. I was just saying, what gets me is that Leicester, like I say, some Leicester fans want to see us fail, I'm sure. They're not happy unless they're moaning. Ben Chilwell was the worst player we had at the club at the time, and yet he was first choice England left back. Then it was Luke Thomas. Then it was, without Luke Thomas, we'd have been up shit creek that COVID year, to be honest with you. Last night it was Daka. And people coming on at the end of the day going, oh, Daka's shit, he should have got that and he should have got this. No, he did his best. And I said, and look, last season, I'm not a fan of Wout Faes. Last season, I really pilloried him on his performances. Never got it personal, but I did pillar him. But one game, I can't remember which game it was, he played out of his skin and he had a really, really, really good game. I was big enough to give him man of the match because I think he deserved it. Last week, I gave Samari the man of the match, another one of my not favourites. Now, the reason I gave it to Samari was because of the improvement. Now, I know he's not improving on a lot because it's shit most of the time, but it was still an improvement. Daka last night, I thought, had a pretty decent game. But it annoys me when players come in and go, oh, he's rubbish, he never did that. Look on the positives.
Yeah, I'm like, there is still positives from last night for sure. Like, we dominated that first half. What's up?
It's still going up and down. We'll try.
Right. What I'll do is in a second I'll finish my point and then I'll transfer over to my laptop. I don't know what's going on because it's not changed anything. It's just
no. It happens. It happens.
But I just have to talk like this instead. So hopefully that doesn't make it go up and down. Yeah, I do feel like we there are fans that just want to be negative for the sake of negativity. Sorry, and that is frustrating because even when we perform well, they can still pick fault with certain bits and pieces. We could have battered them last night, and people would have still gone for Patson Daka. Look, don't get me wrong. I said that he was awful, and then within about 5 seconds of me tweeting that, he got an assist, and I went, "Oh, I'll be quiet because he just got an assist." So, it happens, and I think you're okay to be able to criticize players, but also, look, they're still trying. They're still at the club. They're still professional footballers. We might not like them, but they're here until the end of the season at least, or even January. So back them until they've gone, sort of situation. But
yeah, totally 100. And look, give these guys credit. There's a new manager come in. Those players, he was pretty firm before the window that unless your head's in, I'm not picking you. The window's gone, and I think, in fairness, Wout Faes and Harry Winks, who are the two main culprits, have got their heads together. And if you see that picture when we equalised the week before, Wojciechowski Reed's amazing Messi-like, no, it wasn't, was it? Shot that deflected in. You look at the picture, the celebration, and it's Wout Faes and Daka that are really, really,
yeah, and Winks was there as well, wasn't he? So, the players that get pilloried. Look, I agree to the thing is, I don't think yesterday was good enough in the second half. I'm going to preface that by saying I think it was a poor, arrogant second half performance, and I agree with what Marty said. The players thought they'd already got the game won when actually they hadn't, and they showed a lack of respect to Wrexham because of that. But yeah, you are right. We're football fans. We're going to try and find negatives because sometimes that makes your life feel better. You can moan about football as much as you want because your life might be going shit. Like I've said before, like my life is pretty good. I'm happy. Work's going well. I'm married and I don't have kids, which is even better. You don't have kids if you're in the chat. I know, it's great. It's so good. Hang on, I'm gonna cough. But the only thing that I can really moan about in my life is Leicester. So I might seem a little more extreme online after a game, but actually, I don't really have much else to complain about the football club. A lot of people came for me last night because I said that John Rudkin had a blinder in the summer. Whilst I think he did have a good transfer window, I don't think it was good enough for what Marty needed to reshape the squad. And I said this at the very beginning of the season, and I'll keep saying it until I'm blue in the face. No, I'm not on Wi-Fi. I'm connected. It might be my Wi-Fi. I'm really sorry. I'll swap over again. I'll swap to my laptop in a second. But realistically, he hasn't really given Marty the tools for the job that he needs, has he? And next summer will be the big change. We'll see a lot of players out of contract, and whatever league that we're in, that'll be the situation we're in. I don't think we'll go up, to be honest. But
no, I don't.
Championship, and we take a year to develop the younger players a bit more, and we get rid of the players that are on overinflated wages, then fine, let it be, and that's because we're older, Chris. We remember the 2008, 2009, the 2005.
How very dare you, sir?
So, I remember being 12 years old in the club, almost going in, or going into administration, or almost going out of business entirely. Yeah. And they, they got saved in the last sort of week or so. But they don't remember that. They just see us in Europe and winning the league and the FA Cup, and it's like, come on, guys, we're better.
I think also, we have to accept, like last night, we were up against a team that, all right, players have been brought in for them, of course they have as well. But we were playing a team that's been together for the majority of the team, probably 4 or 5 seasons, with a manager that's been with them those same seasons. They know each other, and that was obvious when we played Preston, and they beat us because they were, they'd been together as a team for a few seasons. We are 8 games. We had a manager that had no pre-season. And, he had one game, which was probably, he had very little input in, but, and then it was into the league thing. So I just don't understand what people want. And yes, criticise players. I will criticise players. That's what we do on these channels. We criticise players. But give them a bit of praise when they do all right. Be big. Be magnanimous. It hurt me to give Boutface man of the match last season. It hurt me to give it to Samari before. But I'm big enough to say, hey, fair play to you. You've had a good game. You deserve it. Not criticising just because it's who they are. And that was, we know experts. We can sit here and say all that we want. But if you really, really thought...
Speak for yourself, Chris. I'm an expert.
Fair dues. 99% of us are not experts. And like I said, if you thought we were going to go up this season, I think you're on cloud cuckoo land. Because when you look at the team that came down, that Enzo inherited, that was a team that went down by 1 point. That was the team that had been in Europe. That was the team that had Maddison and had Kieran Dewsbury Hall. The team that Marty's come in and got, it's with you. That team would struggle in a Sunday morning league. It really, really would. But look, that's all I'm saying on that. So let's have a look at the game itself. Because yes, it is a game we should have won, but it's another game we haven't lost. And you've got to look at that. And that first 45 minutes, I said last night, was the best 45 minutes for me of the season. You guys might disagree. I think it was the best 45 of the season. And I have to say, though, when I saw this team being announced, I was like, what the fuck is he doing? But look, I tell you the other thing as well is, right, we do not anymore have a reserve team. Steve's probably too young. I can remember when you had a first team, a reserves, and then an under-21. So these players, like Bobby DeCover-Reid, like Daka, they went into there, like Chowdhury, they went into those teams, into the reserve teams, would play every week, would be playing the style of football that whoever was in charge wanted, and then was when they were picked, they come on and they're fit, they're match ready, they know what they're doing. Daka, and you've only got, he's played 10, 15 minutes every game in the league. Is that getting him match fit to coming on? Bobby DeCover-Reid, he had a good game, but he must have been ring rusty. And we forget that, but we haven't got that anymore, Steve, if you're back with us. I don't know.
No, I'm just switching over. So if you carry on talking for a few, my laptop's up and running. I'm going to swap everything over and then we should be all good to go.
No, that is fine. I was
going to jump off the camera whilst I sort it all out.
Yeah. So when these players are not being picked for the first team, where do they play? What do they do? Training? Come on. That doesn't get you ready. It's like pre-seasons, They're not going to get you ready for the proper games. We need to get the reserve teams back, in my opinion. We've got these squads of 25. You can put a couple in the under-21s, agreed. But you can't put all of them in. Where was Samari? What's he been doing this week? Sat on his arse doing a bit of training, I grant you. Same with Skip, Skip came on, didn't he? But I just think we need that for the to keep the players tuned in, to keep them knowing what they're doing. If that reserve team should be playing the way that the first team play, so that when they come in, they're ready. And that is why I have to say, although we didn't play, Viteris, the new goalkeeper, was actually picked when we were doing the pick and mix show. Tom was picking his 11 to start. He actually put him in because, again, look at Danny Ward. I mean, I know we'd rather not, but look at Danny Ward. He took over having not played a Premier League. I think he played possibly one Premier League game at the end of the season. That was it. And yet we expected him to go in and be Casper number 2. we've got to give these players a chance to get ready. And I think it's the worst thing not having a reserve team at all. Chowdhury, he nearly cost us. He gave away, it was a short pass back to Salarchik, who thankfully was awake and managed to clear the ball. Monga started. Look, I'm not a Monga starting fan. I prefer him to come on, but he had a decent first half. I have to say, fair play to Bobby Dickover-Reid, and I'm not his biggest fan. To me, he was behind AU, but he did all right again. Fair play to him in that first half. And Daka, we should have won. Who had the best chance in the game? It's the worst game of the season. No at them from the start. Worst game of the season? I'll have a pint of what you're drinking. Surely the worst game of the season is Preston because we lost. Am I missing something there? But Daka was unlucky as well. Let's be honest with you. He got this the other week. He got this. So let's give these players a chance, shall we? And let's see what they do. Chowdhury. Sorry, I was talking Chowdhury, wasn't I? He can play that role, but I think you play Ricardo when he's fit. I understand him not being picked last night. I wouldn't have picked him myself last night because we'd only just played at the weekend, and it is like the Jamie Vardy. I do know Jamie Vardy ended up playing all the bloody games, but to his detriment, I think. But Chowdhury should have gone off at some point, and Ricardo come on. And I think this is the problem: is that in all the games leading up to this, Barty's got his substitutes right, and I don't think he did. Don't think he did this match, and I think that's the problem. But he's not going to get it right every single time. He really isn't. Like I say, he's a new manager coming in, and he's back. Oh,
right, is that better?
Do Mary had a little lamb or something? Do it.
Is that better? Can you hear me now?
We can. Yes, it is better. Okay. It is
perfect,
better.
Perfect.
Not sure about the background, but you've got very nice. I didn't know you played the piano, Steve.
There you go. I've got a brick wall now. There you go. That's a bit easier. The house is a mess behind me. That's all. So
I tell you what, we could have done with that last night.
Well, yes.
I'm just saying we need a reserve team back because we've put Bobby Reid in there. What's he been doing? He hasn't had regular game time. A couple of them might be able to drop into the under-21s, a couple of adult ones in there. But we can't expect these players to come in and just start. And I think Chowdhury, Ricardo starts for me every time if he's fit. I don't think he should have started last night because he played on the Friday. But he nearly cost us a goal with a short back pass. And you should at some point have... I don't know what you right. Come on. But I think where we went wrong last night was the substitute, Steve.
Yeah, no, I agree. So we lost all intensity in that midfield as soon as we brought Oliver Skipp on. And I'm not saying this to bash Oliver Skipp every week because, realistically, he's a professional footballer that costs 25 million, so he should be good enough in this league. But when he came on, we moved JJ into the 10, which just doesn't work. I don't think he's a 10. We showed how good he was in the 8th position or the 6th position, whichever you want to put it, next to Harry Winks. And there was one moment where the ball went through to their goalkeeper and he pushed forward onto the 18-yard box for some reason, even though the rest of them had dropped back. And the ball went over his head and he just walked back to the centre circle. And I'm sitting there thinking, you're a midfield. You've only just come on. You can't be knackered already. It's just that's the frustrating bit because as soon as he came on, and when Mavididi for Monga as well, we lost all intensity, and it left a hole in the midfield because he was a passenger at that point. The ball just kept going around him. He didn't put a tackle in. As far as I know, he got a yellow card. But I can't.
And so did Hamza, and he didn't even have to come on. No, it wasn't Hamza, was it?
It was Hamza on Friday. He got a yellow card off the
Friday, I think. I'm getting the two mixed up. My brain doesn't compute the difference here. but sorry, carry on, mate.
No, carry on. You go.
I want to bring Richard's points in because this is what I don't get. Should have won. Who had the best chances in the game? It wasn't Leicester. For me, it's the worst game of the season. Not at them from the start. Followed up with versus Preston, because I said that's a loss, so surely that's your worst game. Versus Preston, we had a phase of pressure. Last night was just a bore fest. Nothing from anyone on the pitch to inspire fans. No wonder they leave early. What was I saying about certain fans at the start of the show? You're muted, mate.
I pressed the button by accident. I'm not used to being on my laptop, so I'm looking down here, and that's the reason I moved the camera up here. So anyway. The main issue, I think, is that I don't think they would have scored that yesterday, and because until we kept making mistakes. So first off, I know Hamza almost gave the ball. Well, they almost scored from that sort of one-on-one there. Hamza passed the ball back to their striker. But other than that, I can't think of a time where they even bothered us in that first half. We controlled the ball for 80%, I think it was 85% at one point. And we looked like the side that was in control. But it was only in the second half that we kept making the mistakes. We kept passing the ball to them, or they put it down to the channels, and we like Christensen and Vestergaard, one of them led to a goal, but they both sort of got bundled off the ball, and then they were in at that point, So I think we were the better team for 45 minutes for sure, 100%, maybe even sort of 60 minutes.
Yeah, I would agree with you totally.
And I agree. I do think it was the best 45 minutes we had so far under Marty for sure, because we were in control. But what I can't read the name, unfortunately. Oh, hang on. Top Brand said, the issue is that we're not clinical. We had chances where we could have finished the game yesterday quite easily, and we just weren't clinical enough. And I spoke to Kate earlier on Twitter, and we both agreed that the main issue is that we don't have overlapping fullbacks anymore. So the wingers get isolated, and when that happens, the only thing we can do is pass the ball back, and then that's when the crowd gets frustrated. So. Be a bit quicker with the ball, release it a bit quicker, and we might actually win games, which would be nice.
We're actually all managers, and we haven't got a fucking clue what we're doing. Let's be honest.
No, that's true. I play a lot of Football Manager, though, Chris. So I would say I'm very qualified.
Well, I've got to say that I have done the FA Part 1 in coaching. So I'll take your Football Manager playing and trump you. Having said that. That is what I used to call the enthusiastic dad level, because it was like a kid. But it does, obviously, it gives you what it gives you. What I said while you were off was that we're playing teams here, and this was very obvious to me when we played Preston. You're playing a team that is been together, having had good, reasonable seasons. Wrexham on a high because they came up. They're going to struggle, etc., for a season possibly. But we've, and a manager that's been there 4 or 5 seasons, and you could tell. And here we are with a manager that's been here 10 games, including friendlies and a Fizzy Pop Cup game, and they're saying, "Oh, we should beat them." No, we shouldn't beat them. And it's the first time he's really got his subs wrong. I
think Friday he got his subs wrong as well. That I would say there's two chances there. I think Friday was quite poor as well in the second half. It seems to be the second half where we seem to struggle. But I agree. I don't think anyone should predict that they're going to be anybody in this league, because the Championship throws up all different results all the time. But I would say the worrying thing is the fact that in 180 odd minutes of football, we've only had 2 shots on target, and that's the main worry. I think that is something that we should be focusing on rather than sort of lambasting the tactics and the players and stuff. To be in a position in the league where
when you look at our strike force, which you were just saying, who've we got? We've got Jordan Ayew, who isn't really that number 9, is he? Mm-hmm. We've got Patson Daka. And whatever we say, it's the proverbial brothel for him. Even though I think he had a decent game yesterday, but he should be scoring. That's his job. And we've got Carranza, who it was third choice wherever he was before. It was a free. We know he's not a 20-goal a season striker at the moment. Who knows? He may prove us all wrong. And look, we've been there, seen it, got the T-shirt with these strikers that are absolutely brilliant in America. Mm-hmm. Now, don't get me wrong. Look at Jamie Vardy. He was brilliant, but it took him a while to get in. We haven't got that 20-plus goal season player because we can't afford to buy him. You're not going to get somebody that's knocking 20 goals in a season, which is what we need. Somebody that is really, really good up front on a free.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't think we've given Carranza enough time in the team. He's only had sort of 17 minutes or so as a striker come up a bit. And you can't really affect a game coming off the bench all that often, especially as a striker, because it takes a while for you to get into the game and feel things out. There are chances going into the box, but we are missing that sort of final person that can put the ball in the back of the net. And I actually think Daka did okay. Yes, he was running.
I think he did okay yesterday. Yeah,
he got the assist as well. But I think the main issue is that when he was in that final sort of 18-yard box area, there was one that ballooned off his head because he had a 50p sort of on his forehead. And then I think he missed the second one, which is but that comes with confidence. If he was playing every week and he scored, a couple of games ago, he might be banging those goals in quite nicely. But and the issue with Marty is that you play Jordan Ayew, who's not a proper striker, over somebody that is a striker. As much as we think he's terrible at times because he, I don't think he'll be here next season. Patson Daka, in all honesty, I think he leaves, and he's not been successful really in the 4 years that he's been here. But he could. This is his level. I really think that he could be doing a job in this team. And he offers something different to Ayew. He just needs
look confidence. At Iheanacho. When we signed him, I thought, brilliant. Him and Vardy up front are going to murder the defender. Of course, wasn't to be. We didn't play two up front. But when he was actually given the starring role because Vardy was injured, he was our top scorer for that season. And there's a couple of, it looked to me on the telly, and obviously that's not always the best angle, that there was a couple of chances, and I likened it to Gaza against Germany in Euro 96. Again, you might not be, you're a bit young, but...
I was 6 years old, so I don't remember. I remember the 98 World Cup, but that's it.
Well, it was in extra time, and the ball was crossed, and Gaza just kind of stopped his run and then carried on, and he was sort of that much off touching the ball, and it would have gone in, and it went past him. So I thought there was a couple of things like that. But also, as a manager, when you come in, and we are scoring more goals this season than we were last season, as I said from my little rant at the start. But there's no point sorting the attacking bit out if you've not sorted the defence out. And yes, people are saying, well, it's still the same team, defenders that were last season. Yeah, but look at the results this season. If you're going to go and score 3, it's no good if you're letting 4 in at the back.
No, but I guess also that, last night we showed the frailties of both ends, really, because, sorry, it's my wife just coming in from work, so you can probably see a flickering in the background. We were quite poor in defence yesterday in the sense of we kept getting beaten with balls into the channel. And there was a moment where Watford got his yellow card for a silly sort of slide in on the halfway line where he didn't need to do it. So I don't think we were very strong yesterday. But, I guess changing the team is what's going to happen. I think. Sorry, she's getting cutlery out now. Bloody hell, she's very loud.
Hello, Mrs. Elm. How are you doing?
If you change the team up, then you expect that these, they haven't played together before for a while at least under this tactic, that it's going to take a little bit of bedding in time. But I imagine we'll see Christensen coming for Thomas on Saturday anyway. We'll still see the same back line with Ricardo coming for Hamza, because whilst Hamza is okay at defending, he's not good for that pivot role that Ricardo does, where he pushes into the middle and controls play in that sort of centre area. So, I think as a strong squad, for our strongest 11 is probably one of the better ones in the league. We just need to find that spark. And once we get going, I think, we'll be unbeaten for 10, 12, 15 games,
Quite possibly. But look, I've worked in sales, and I've been as part of a team where we were not doing very well at all. We were struggling because the manager was absolutely useless. He used to come in pissed in the morning. He got his coffee out of the machine and he drunk it down by a straw, so he got the caffeine in his body earlier. And things. We got a new manager, and she was absolutely brilliant, enthusiastic, and our sales went up, but not overnight, because we were so far down. And when you look at last season, we were on a -20. I'd probably say we're on about a -5 now. It is baby steps, and I just wonder if we'd lost the first 3 games, which we could have done. Let's be honest with you, if we still had, if we hadn't, looking at the way that we were playing last season, if we lost the first 3 games and then we got 4 draws on a trot, would people still be pissed off, do you think?
Yeah, I think they would still be pissed off. Even if we lost 3 games in a row from now, they'd be pissed off, because football fans are fickle and it's a reactionary thing. So, yeah, look, Marty has got a lot of credit in the bank from a lot of fans, but only time will tell. I think if it gets to Christmas and we're outside the playoffs and we've not had a decent 90-minute performance, then there might be a lot more pressure on him. But I just can't see it happening.
But is there going to be that much pressure? Because it's still an improvement on what we had and what we were used to. Rome wasn't built in a day, was it?
No, it's not. But you also have to remember that it's football is it's an endorphin, isn't it? It's a release of endorphins, a positive endorphin sort of situation. You score a goal and you feel great. You concede, you feel shit. And if you come away from
you've been reading your sports psychology books again, haven't you?
but it's true. If you come away from a game and I say the game on Friday, even though we scored in the last minute, it felt like a defeat because it just wasn't. I know we got a point and we rescued a point and that was great, but it just wasn't a great performance. Whereas realistically, that should have felt like a win because the last minute goal is incredible. And I think once you've had that first 90 minutes of I'm going to sneeze, hang on.
I did feel like it was a win, to be honest with you.
Well, exactly. That's difference of opinion, isn't it? Everyone's going to feel differently because everyone's different. Whereas if we go to Swansea on Saturday, which is going to be a long drive for me, it's 4.5 hours there, and we win and we play well for 90 minutes, the international break, great. I'll be annoyed that the international break's here because I want to carry on the performance. But if we lose on Saturday, I'm going to be like, okay, now it can't come soon enough,
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of fans are. I think we just want that 90-minute performance where we can say, actually, we are progressing as a club. We are seeing fruit, shoots of positivity around the club.
Yes.
And until we get that, I think there's just going to be a bit more pressure than there really needs to be.
No, you're right. And look, there's some of the stats from last night. 33% of the game, so a third of the game basically, was in the away third. Leicester were effective at creating goal-scoring opportunities through individual skill. Our weakness, we committed a high number of individual errors. Oh my God, how true. Had a large quantity of possession in the opponent's half, dominated possession and featured short passing. The thing that really annoys me that we do so much is fouls just outside the box.
Yeah, it happens all the time because it's but that is from us making the mistake to give them the ball outside of our box. So you have to commit a foul because you've made the mistake yourself.
Yes.
That needs to be improved for sure. And then it says here sort of favoured short passing. That's frustrating because again, there were times at the last night where we could have released the ball faster to the wingers and we didn't. And we said it on Monday's pod. We said it the week before that when Jakob gets the ball, he's so slow at releasing it that it gives them time to get back into formation and then the attack's gone and you're just paying the ball back and forth between the defenders again. And that's frustrating. But, I think Marty was annoyed at yesterday and I think he's kicked some ass in that dressing room at full time. Because again, you don't see it when you're not at the game because, you focus on the actual pitch itself. But he was losing his mind again at times on last night. So he's not happy. He's really not happy. And that's good to see because I'm sick of having a manager that's like, well, you win some, you lose some, etc., etc. No, he's come out and said it's not good enough. We need to do better. We looked arrogant and we did look arrogant.
Yeah, no. I mean, there's all that. Like I say, on the performance, he had every right to go to that dressing room after. But I just go back to, I don't think we'd have even scored if we'd had Ruud van Nistelrooy there. But yeah, 32% in there, third 90. Now, everybody was saying last night that it was a brilliant first half, and the second half was awful. And we let them come back into the game, and they kind of dominated. But actually, they didn't. When you look at the stats, because look at the momentum. Leicester on the top in blue. I'm going to Steve.
Gesundheit.
Thank you. You're sending it down. You really are. No, when you look at the blue, and look, ball possession means sweet FA. We use that at times, but we know we won that bloody thing with the less possession than any team's ever done. But when you look at, you can see though when they scored their goal, they were on top on there. But really, even in that second half, we were pretty dominant.
We were, but it didn't feel like that in the stadium because every time we got the ball, we were dominant in the sense of we just passed the ball backwards and forwards between the left back, the centre back, and the right back, and occasionally to Winks and to whoever else was playing next to him. So I think that's where it sort of goes, oh, it didn't feel like we were dominating or that we would go on to score that second goal. And funnily enough, I tweeted saying this has got last minute goal and draw written all over it. And then 15 seconds later, they scored the equaliser. So I take blame for that, guys. I'm very sorry, but
your fault.
but yeah, you're right. Like that momentum. But again, we said it for the last couple of weeks with Brad. Like the momentum chart doesn't look right because when you're watching the game, either in the stands or on the TV, it doesn't look like we were dominant for as long as we were because that short period where they scored and they had the dominant sort of on the momentum there. That felt like it was a lot longer.
It did, and it probably did. Probably not as much on the telly, to be honest with you, because the commentating and they're giving a bit of explaining things a bit on that. I mean, Richard said there, in fairness to Richard, and I agree with him here. I'm Marty in, but this team is not for going up. Maybe here in the Championship will do us good. Totally, Richard, and that's what I said at the start of the season. If we don't go up, for me, it's not the end of the world because I think Leeds will do reasonably well this season in the Premier League because they've had 2 seasons down in the Championship. Now that might be proven wrong there, but they
didn't sack the manager, did they? Whereas I don't know as much as I think we should give him time. I don't know where top is at in regards to this. So if we don't get promoted, does he sack Marty?
Can you? I mean,
well, exactly. So we agree on that, Chris.
Yeah,
we don't run the football club,
No.
And we know that when he has something in his head, he lets managers go. Like with Steve Cooper, he wasn't sold on him to begin with, and we let him go. He was clearly not the first choice in the summer. So do they go? Well, we didn't get promoted. Off you go, mate, and we'll rebuild with somebody else. Maybe this is the Ranieri, or not the Ranieri, sorry, but who was in before? Not Svenga and Eriksson before Pearson came back again.
Yes, and I think though if Top looks back at our recent history, not sacking Nigel Pearson when we didn't get promoted and we have the don't scratch your eyes game was the right thing to do because we absolutely smashed it the following year. This is look, I say possession. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. I mean, at one point, Face passed to Vestergaard, or the other way around, passed it back. There were 6 passes between those 2 players before the ball actually transitioned forward. Now, while they're doing that, like you say, what are Wrexham doing? They're getting into position.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we seem to be doing every week. We're very slow at releasing that ball. And I think that's where another part of the frustration in the fan base comes from, in regards to the stadium anyway, because there were times in that second half where, the ball would be passed sort of 3 or 4 times between the defenders. And Mavididi was free on one side with Christensen. And they both sort of put their hands up like, why haven't you? We've got nowhere near us. Why have you not passed us the ball? And it went to Abdul, and he got intercepted and back towards our goal. And it's like, I don't think the players are making the right choices in that sense.
Yeah.
But it might be a confidence thing again, because it does take a while to relearn that you're winning games, and when your head doesn't go down when you concede, which it did last season significantly. But yeah, but I say previously, it's that stat sort of fourth one down with the one on shots on target. That's the worrying thing for me. You can have 20 odd shots a game, and if you only got one on target, you're not really going to score goals.
You're not, but then like I say, I will go back to the, you can score 2 and concede 3. I think it's still the back of the bits that he's got to sort out first, if you like. The interesting thing is, you can see we're on the left. Obviously, it's the home team. The blue isn't blue because it's us. I think it's blue because we're the best on those. Passes completed 623 to 272. But it's what you do with them. I tell you what, I did want to ask you, and there's something that was in I think on Leicestershire Live. It said Wrexham had an advantage over us from the start because they had Cody in the dressing room.
Yeah, which I don't know if that is the case. Unless Cody said to them, "Look, hit it down the wings, and Vestergaard will dive in, and you won't get, and you'll come away with the ball." I don't know what he could have brought to that conversation other than they were shit last year and I was part of the same team that was terrible. So, look, I don't know what Cody brings to the team. I spoke to a couple of Wrexham fans and they were like, "Oh, we're glad he's not playing for us at the moment." So, I do miss that he didn't come on because I would have liked to have booed. I think I got a massive enjoyment out of that. But I don't know what he could bring as an insight into the club. That's for sure.
I think it was probably just some of the players, good points and bad points. I'm guessing. Oh no, it is blue because it is Leicester, as you can see there. Expected goals on target, slightly better for not much, but slightly better there for Wrexham. That's where all our shots were. But look, expected goals 1.16, 16 shots, and like you say, and this is something I went mad at in previous season. You're having 16 shots. Why aren't we getting them on target at least? I'm going to sneeze again. Oh God, I hate you. You do it like that.
That's right. I sneezed and coughed at the same time earlier, and it hurt my shoulder. So it's the worst.
I'll try not to do that. We had 9 shots off target, 6 shots on target, and hit the woodwork once. 10 of those shots, as you can see, were inside the box. 6 from outside, and no big chances missed. But again, I've got to say this. Yes, it's awful, and we can't hide from that fact. We need to be getting shots on target, or at least getting them in off somebody's arse if you probably overread. But I will guarantee, and you've got to accept that this team is still probably 80% the team we had last season.
Yeah, I think it's probably more 90% of what it was last season.
Even so. And like I say, that our best have gone, so we've not been left with the dregs really. But how often would we have had those shots? How often would we have got into the opposition half? Let's put it bluntly.
True, but I would counter that and say that the majority of the games last season were against, some of the best players in world football. 8 or 9 of those teams last season are competing in European competitions and are tipped to win them, or favourites to win them anyway. I don't see Wrexham as a side that came up from League One as the same standard as that, because they're really not. They spent a lot of money in the summer, but we were playing through them because they were a worse side than last season. We couldn't play attacking football last season or control possession football because we didn't have the manager that wanted to play like that. And the systems, I don't know what Ruud van Nistelrooy's system was. Let's be honest. No, I don't think nobody knows what it was.
No, he didn't know, did he? Let's be honest.
Exactly. He just went, 11 players, I'll pick them in the dark, and off you go. Yes. But, that's why I find it very difficult to compare to last season, because the quality involved is so much higher. We talk about the quality between the Championship and the Premier League. It's such a big sort of gulf
people
in
were
class.
saying, well, is it? Because people were, and I agree, there is a bit of a gulf there. But, people were saying, oh, it's going to be hard next season. It's the toughest league in the world to get out of. And now we're in it, we're saying, well, it's pretty shit, isn't it, really? Look at the teams that are in it, But when you look at the Premier League, and let's take one team that was in Europe was Spurs, and they only just survived, well, comfortably, if we're honest, Man United. But when you get past the top six, they're all pretty much of a muchness.
Yes, but also you have to bear in mind that the rest of the team, so the teams that haven't been relegated, so the Everton, the Villa, the Newcastle, these teams historically are bigger clubs than Leicester and have a bigger pool, and financially they can invest in world-class players. They're not spending £25 million on Oliver Skipp. They're spending £25 million on Bruno Guimaraes, or £40 million on Tonali, that sort of thing. And so there is a, because you look at Sunderland and Leeds that have gone up this season, they've spent significant amounts of money, which we didn't do when we went up. So there's that also sort of comparison at the same time. I do think that you can take some things from last season, but I don't think you can compare all of it to last season, because I just don't think it's the same. Because again, Wrexham came up from League One, and that's the equivalent of us going up against, I guess, Manchester United going up. No, Arsenal going up against us when we went up last year, and we lost 4-2 to them. We came back to 2-2 and they beat us 4-2, and we probably should have got more out of the game. But that's the difference. They've got the world-class players to beat the teams like Leicester that came up. We should have the players to beat a team like Wrexham that came up from League One, like Birmingham as well, and Charlton,
I think if the team that we have that should be doing that had got more confidence.
Yeah.
When you look at last, I have to say, I can't, say this enough, and I will keep repeating it. This team that was playing in blue last season, not necessarily all their fault. The manager's got to take a fair bit of the blame, because he picked the team out. He didn't make any changes. He kept to it week on week. Tactically, I think he was inept. But they're going to be low on confidence.
They are, but this is a new manager in the new system. And by all accounts in pre-season, they all said that they were enjoying the football again. And, at some point, you've got to take responsibility and accept that if it's a confidence issue, it's on you as a person. I can't go into work and say, I'm sorry, boss, I'm not feeling it today. I'm not very confident. He'd be like, what? Who cares? You do your job, sort of thing.
Would he not ask? Well, I would expect him to go, why aren't you? Is it something we're doing wrong? Is it a training issue? Do you need, improvement?
Yeah, he probably would. But if I kept coming in every week and said, I'm not feeling confident today, he'd be like, well, what, why not? We're giving you everything that we can.
I agree if it was every week, yeah.
Yeah. New manager.
But we also we've got to, and I will again keep coming back to this point, 10 games, that's all he's had. I agree. He's not had the preseason, that's for sure. Yeah. But also, a lot of these players were in that Enzo team that played almost the same way as that we're playing now. So they should know how to play the system. Yeah. Now, that's wrong. I was going to say, Samare played, did he? I didn't see him. No, that is wrong. That's from last week, if you remember. Or last game, I should say. I'm so full of cold. I'm saying to Kate that the show we're doing is tomorrow and it's Friday. My head is up my arse. I was supposed to go and see my granddaughter today, but I don't want to pass this on to her. She's only 6 months old. The fact that I've even got a slide up there is good. But you wanted to speak to us about JJ. Or the new JJ. The new JJ, yes. So, let me just show you this, because he got on 365 man of the match. His rating was 8.4. There's his heat map. At last, a decent heat map we can see that doesn't look like my granddaughter's filled a nappy. Mm-hmm. But that's his heat map. Yeah, I thought he was outstanding yesterday, and it proves that if you play Winks and JJ together, that is the start of a really good partnership. Because they play off each other well, and he plays the KDH role in that system. He bombs forward and he comes back. He's always available for a pass. And look, he got lucky with his goal. I think the keeper probably should have saved that, to be honest. But it's still a first goal, so that'll be massive confidence for him. And
I don't think we see Samare coming back into that squad anytime soon, or into that starting 11 anyway, especially with performances like that with Winks as well. So the next thing is, we know he's not a 10. We've seen that for the last 2 or 3 games. He's not an attacking midfielder. He's a box-to-box midfielder. So stop putting him in that position and allow Ramsey, when he comes back on Saturday, or whoever else is going to be there. It's probably going to be Ramsey and then Ayew up top on Saturday. That midfield three excites me more than anything. JJ, Winks and Ramsey could be outstanding. And that we looked a lot more assured in that first half. And I keep saying, when we brought Skip on to replace JJ in the end, we lost all intensity in that midfield. So yeah, that my short thing is get him, leave him there. There. Don't bring Samari in, please.
Oh no. Well, that will lead very nicely on to the next question. And look, there's his attacking stats. I'll put his defensive stats up in a minute. He did play well. I didn't like him in that number 10 role. I got to be honest with you. We know what he can do from when he was at Birmingham. And again, for me, it's my case. It's always a case of round pegs in round holes. And if couldn't we have started Louis Page in that number 10 role yesterday? I just or brought him on and kept James where he was. But let me say, and I agree with you totally, and I'm going to come on to two questions here. Well, it's got to be Winks and it's got to be JJ for me, as for you, going forward. Winks has got his head in the right place now.
Yep.
If one of those gets injured or collects enough yellow cards, as KDH has just found out, and goes to miss a game, Samari or Skip, who do you bring in?
Oh, that's like asking if I want to be punched in the face or punched in the nuts. Like, it's a terrible decision for both of them, to be honest.
Yes.
I will probably pick Samari over Skip, because at least Samari is a, he has some confidence. I don't think Skip is at the races at all. I think we saw last night that he's just got no confidence whatsoever, and you can play yourself into confidence, and that's great. But as a sub, putting in those performances, I just don't think it's worth the hassle. So I think we start Samare if one of them gets injured, and hope and pray that it's not a long injury or a long suspension.
My next question then is, Winks' contract finishes at the end of the year. So as of January, he can actually talk to other clubs.
Yeah.
Let's say, for an example, nobody comes in for him. Which could be because nobody came in for him in the summer, did they? Now, it might be different. They might come into him because he'll be on a free. But let's just say, for example, nobody does. And we get to the end of the year and still nobody's coming in for him. Do you look at him and go, and let's say we don't get promoted, so we're still in this division, let's say. Do we say, should we give him a year's extension?
So I said this to you on Monday night, and you looked at me like I was crazy.
I
think he signs a 1-year extension in the new year.
Thank God it was you, because I said this in the post-match last night, and everybody laughed at me, and I accused Tom of saying it to me, and he said it wasn't me. I said somebody said it to me, and I laughed at them, but it was I am actually thinking that now.
The only reason being, and I've seen that Oddfish said no in capital letters, so I'm guessing he's against the idea.
Yes.
If the wages come down, he's on an appropriate wage.
Yeah.
Him and JJ in this midfield would be great. My only issue is that if he still wants the wages that he wants now, and it stifles Louis Page or the other JJ at Tranmere, because that would be confusing having 2 JJs in the middle of the pitch.
Oh, we couldn't. I couldn't handle that.
Yeah. So I think it also depends on him, because my main concern is that we get to sort of February, March time, and he has a Tielemans moment where he just sort of downs tools and doesn't perform for the rest of the season, and we miss out on potential promotion or playoffs or whatever, because he decides, well, I don't want to get injured because it's going to scupper a move for me. So if he's got no intention of signing that deal, if there is a deal on the table, which I'm not sure if there is, but you never know, then is there a conversation to say, well, we'll bring JJ back from Tranmere and we'll give him a chance over wings? So, but I think honestly, if the money was good and he's committed, then I would give him a 1-year extension. But I know I would get.
I apologise for laughing at you because at the time it did seem like a what the fuck moment.
Yeah.
But when I look back at it and thought, I apologise to Tom as well because I said, yes, you bloody did say that to me. I knew it was somebody, and I said, and I laughed at them at the time, and I'm thinking, maybe, like you say, the money's got to be right as well. That's the thing. That is the thing.
But if you asked me that question about Jordan Ayew, I would say no. If you ask me that question about Decoder Vareed, I'd say no. So
we've got Decoder Vareed for an extra year anyway.
Oh, yeah, and Vestergaard as well. So yeah, but like if you were to offer that sort of situation out to several other players, I would say no because I don't think there's anybody in this squad that's in the youth academy or the current first team, or potentially who we could sign that does that job as well as he does without spending 10 or 15 million pounds.
Yes, so exactly. Yeah, and Diddler said there, quite right, I agree with him. We could have played Mavididi on the left and used Mongo in the number 10. I think if you've got Mavididi and Fatu on the wings with Mongo in the middle, I think you're looking at that and going, just go and enjoy yourselves, guys. Swap as much as you want, confuse the opposition, and let Mongo go and get a couple of penalties.
Well, I think Bobby played okay yesterday, to be honest. So I don't think he was all that bad. He had a chance where he hit the post.
Oh no, I think he had a good game. What I'm saying is, if you've got those three in there, and I'm going to go off camera because I'm going to blow my nose.
Yeah, so. but I would say that Mongo looked knackered last night after sort of 60 odd minutes. And you could have muted your mic as well, Chris.
I realised that just as I was doing it. I'm thinking. Shit.
He said Mongo said that 10 is his one of his favourite positions, so you could try it, but I don't think you try it at 16. I think you keep him on the wing because he's a tricky winger, and he when he gets the opportunity, he will take on players.
Yes, yeah. Manny's in. Hi, Manny. How you doing? Last two games we won. Page started. Totally.
I don't know why he was dropped out, to be honest.
But
I guess
he was injured, wasn't he? He got injured.
And then we had Ramsey come in, so I think that's probably why he was dropped out.
Yeah, I've got to say, I please, nobody clip this because I'm never going to admit that I said this, but Manny's actually right. Daedalus says Mavididi needs a full 90 minutes. Taking him off every game just does not help him. Didn't do so bad for Okazaki, did it?
No, and if you don't give him the full, if you give him the full 90 minutes, then you don't bring on Mongo, who I still think as a sub, 60th minute, if you bring Jeremy Mongo on, he's a lot more effective than if you start him. That's for sure.
Yes, yeah, right. You haven't got any Brad to suckle up to this week, so you haven't just suckle up. And I'm not going to give, because I know my ratings will be completely different to everybody else because I saw a different game, like I said right at the start. But you are up against Jordan, and hopefully, as you always do, that you haven't checked these out in advance.
No, I have not.
Nice one, sir. Right, here we go then. We're going to start with the starting 11. Hi, Armchair. How you doing? Stolarczyk.
A 6. He didn't really have a lot to do. His passing is still a little bit of a worry for me. He kept hold of the ball a bit too much at times yesterday. So, and that's the crowd was getting frustrated because he kept hold of the ball too much. So if he's quicker, he'd be on a 7, but I think 6 is fair.
You agree with Jordan. He did well to close the angle for O'Brien's one-on-one and was calm on the ball. But for one moment, he was not at all at fault for the equalising goal, but didn't have any saves to make. And like you say, it is frustrating. It's for me, it's like the Mavididi or Fatu trying to do an extra step over. Some of these things have got to be taken out of these players, and one for Stolarczyk is maybe he's being told that he's got to play it out short, and so he's got to hold on to it. But no, just move it. Like I say, I hate this playing out from the back. Boot it upfield. Then if we do lose the ball, which is a 50-50 chance if you've knocked it upfield, then at least it's in their half,
Exactly.
So it's one you've agreed on already. How many are we going to see you agree on here? So that's one. Right, next. I hope I've changed all these over. I know I didn't the early one. Mr. Chowdhury.
5. He gave away the ball quite sort of sloppishly in the first half that almost led to a goal. I don't think he can play that pivot role as well as Ricardo. Defensively, he's okay, but we know what we're going to get with Hamza, and it's usually a 6 out of 10 most weeks. But I think he was quite poor yesterday.
Well, you don't agree on this one. He's got a 6 off Jordan. He made a real hash of, and sorry, you can see Trash Ants joining in as well, 6 and a 4. He made a real hash of the back pass and was fortunate not to be punished by O'Brien. Aside from that, he helped City control the game well from an inverted position and played one excellent curved pass to get Daka in.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. He definitely can't play. He can't. No. I mean, as I say, look, for me, he's on a lot of money. If he's fit, you play him. But I understand why I didn't pick him in my team, as in Ricardo, because it was too soon after the last game. You have to manage his time. My favourite Hair Bear bunch, Mr. Faze.
I don't think he did too badly yesterday. I think he was fine. He was solid enough, and he progressed the ball pretty well at times. He did get a silly yellow card for a tackle that he didn't really need to make. So I think a 6 is fair. I think he was okay.
Yeah. I thought he had a pretty decent game. When he gets that ball, I mean, at one point, I thought he was going to go on and shoot and, get a goal of the season. There was just nobody was trying to stop him on their side. And, it reminds me very much of Maguire and, who's the guy with the big balls? It's distressing. Out of everything I could have said, who was the Turkish guy? No, I said the guy with the big balls. We all remember the song. I don't see any other defender that we've got that does that gets the ball and runs it forward. And God, I can't believe I'm saying this. I actually really thought he had a good first half. Anyway, Jordan, he was really good in the first half as an attacking centre half, bringing the ball forward, connecting play, and even putting in teasing crosses. Defensively, he was in the right position in the second half during the periods when Wrexham were on top. Okay, here's the partner, and he got a 7. Sorry, I didn't say he got a 7. So again, it's only one that you've agreed on so far. The Great Dane.
6, he was solid with his passing, a little bit slow. I can say that we're fast as well, a bit slow with the passing. I don't think he really had much to do, but he got let down. Well, he let himself down by getting sort of knocked off the ball, and that led to the goal. But I actually sort of put that down to the left back situation rather than him, because he's not a fast. If you put the ball into the channels on that left hand side. It shouldn't be him there to clear it up. It should be Christensen. So I think 6 is fine. He was fairly solid, didn't have a lot to do, but overall, nothing spectacular.
It's funny because when I was watching their goal, and of course it did lead to that time when he appeared to be pushed off the ball, to me, it just looked like he was completely out of control of himself. He was losing his footing and kind of going everywhere. I didn't really see whether the player had run into him or not. And like you say, he's a big guy. He should be standing up,
Yeah. Manny, just a quick one. You can blame Vestergaard, but you could also blame Oliver Skipp for not tracking the run into the box. So, it's a team performance. I think you can probably blame sort of 2 or 3 players in that situation.
I think as well, we tend to blame the last player that was involved in the goal in a defensive way. So, like last week, it was Faze because he went to the ground, but Vestergaard was the one that I think gave the ball away or what have you. You have to look at the full passage of play, don't you?
Exactly. Yeah.
But it is a game of opinions. Well, you agree for the second time. He needs to do better for the goal. It's not a mistake as such, but he can't let O'Brien come away with the ball in that much space after a 50-50. Besides that, his passing was decent and he kept more quiet. Will you actually do me a favour?
Sure.
When we do this show on Monday night, will you please tell Brad that Jordan was actually talking sense tonight? He does appear to be talking sense tonight.
Yeah, I'll tell him. But also with Escott, he also had an opportunity where he actually got hold of a cross with a header and put it over the bar, and it's the first time I've seen him win a header in the penalty box that led to an opportunity. So more of that, please, Vesti, please.
Yes, yeah. Like everybody says, like Locks has just said, Vestergaard averages 1 jump per season. He is actually shorter when he jumps than when he's just stood there. But he does make defending. Sometimes all he does is just put the foot out, and he does. But anyway, let's move on. So like I say, he got a 6 from Jordan. Thomas.
See, this is the annoying thing of not having the 0.5, so I'm going to give him a 4.
Don't you start just because Brad's not here. I thought I was going to get an easy ride.
I'm giving him a 4. Well, no, actually, I'm giving him a 3 because look, he got a yellow card. He was a liability. He could have got sent off. He got beaten every single time on his side. And he just doesn't offer enough in attack for me. He runs up to the winger and just stands there, and then gets the ball, and then that's it. The moves break down. So he had to come off because he was on the verge of getting a red card. But yeah, a 3. He was not great.
Yeah,
probably his worst performance in a Leicester shirt for me.
Not a good one, but yes, he had to come off. He made that decision for Marty, and probably a decision that Marty didn't want to make, although he may have looked at it in the long term and done it anyway, because he was getting roasted a little bit, but their best player was up against him. But I have to say, my criticism a lot of the time with Thomas is that he doesn't get forward very much, but he was at least getting forward yesterday. But, like you say, still a yellow, and I mean, FaZe was on a yellow, but he's more mature. He's got a better head about him. Thomas beyond embarrassing. And he didn't do too bad against Salah last season. Let's just say that. But you gave him a 3.
I did.
You were very, very close to matching up again. A rough night. He could not handle Kabori's pace and never got to grips with the flying Wrexham wing back. Once he earned a booking and then got away with a pull-on Windassi shirt, a half-time substitution was always coming. And he got a 4. You were so close. You were close.
Yeah. That goes with his 4-year contract, as Manny just said in the chat. And looking forward to not having any sell-on value there because he's not worth anything.
We will get something for him, and it will be pure profit.
£1,000 is still £1,000.
We were offered 5 for him at one point, weren't we?
We were. We
the argument we should have taken it. But,
we should have taken it.
If he's average and we just get 2 million for him in 3 years, that's 2 million pure profit, like we say.
That's 3 more years of Luke Thomas, Chris. I don't know if I could deal with that.
Oh, don't turn into ducks now. Come on. Winks. Harry Winks.
7, solid. He controlled the game in the first half. He looked lively. He was turning and twisting out of the way of all the midfielders and defenders. I think if he added goals to his game, he'd be incredible. But I think a solid 7. I think he's just been Mr. Consistent.
Yeah. Locks, keep up, mate. I just said that. He's on holiday. There's a time difference. There's a time delay from where he is to where we are. He's abroad somewhere. Right. He got. Sorry, I nearly ignored Jordan. Then Harry Winks, very good for nearly the whole game. Line-breaking passes came easy to him, and he continually found teammates in good positions. Fizzing an exceptional pass to James in the build-up to the goal. He got an 8, in fairness, so 7, 8, you're pretty much in the ballpark. I think I know which way this one's going.
Yeah, he's my number. He's my 8. He was man of the match for me. He was, he was backwards and forwards. He was in the box. He was in the defending area as well. I think overall, he's found his position. That box-to-box midfield is his all over. And if Marty consists of picking Samare going forward, then I think we might need to check him into a psych ward, because there is no way anybody should be picking anyone else in that midfield other than Winks and James.
Again, strange as it seems, I agree with you. And you agree with, again, a fourth one, I think this is where you've agreed with Jordan. City's star man, he was a threat in attack as both a creator and a scorer, picked up great positions and made fine runs, while he also trapped back and used his strength well. The first time pass into Daka for his goal was sublime.
Did get very lucky for his goal, though. I think the keeper probably should have saved it, to be honest. But we take it, I don't know how it goes in. It goes in.
Indeed. Okay, next up. And I'm just going to say fair play to Daka for getting an assist. Reed. Now, I was apoplectic when I saw he was in the team, but I did say everybody gets a clean slate under the new manager, and we haven't really seen him. But when we did see him, like I say, Messi-like, he curled that ball into the top corner for the equaliser. I should have gone to Specsavers, shouldn't I? But he had a decent game in that number 10 role.
He did. I think a 7 is a fair score for him, as people are saying in the chat. I think he linked up well with JJ and Winks. He hit the post in the first half, which was unfortunate. I think he probably would have liked to have buried that one. And it shows that when we took him and JJ off, the whole sort of complexion of the game and the dominance we had sort of fell on its arse a little bit. I think he starts on Saturday. I think you keep Winks and JJ and Bobby in that cam position.
Although Ramsey's back, isn't he?
He is back, but I think he starts on the bench for Ramsey does that. I think maybe because we don't want another sort of 18-minute display rather than 24 minutes this time where he gets sent off. So, if we give him 20 minutes at the end of the game, he might not get sent off. So that'll be good. But I think, overall, I think he's we didn't really see a lot of him last year where he could make a difference. I don't know whether or not I don't think it's down to him. That's down to the tactics and the manager, let's be honest. Yeah. But, he can play across that front line. And I think he's a good asset to have. So, yeah, I think 7 is fair.
Yeah, and most people are going 7, including Locke. I think Manny said, as Michael was saying there, Armchair saying Reed possibly should be a 9. Taking him off was the wrong, the mistake that he's made. But he's got most of his subs right this season, but wasn't his best night last night. Dakova Reed, I can't believe I'm giving Dakova Reed praise. This is Jordan, not me. Really good. He looks much more effective centrally than he ever did on the wing last season. He picked up the right positions to influence the attack, making himself a threat inside and outside the box, while his interchanging passing with Monga in particular was great. 8 off Jordan.
Okay.
I'd probably towards you with the 7. Maybe 6.5, 7, but I don't do halves, do we?
No, we don't.
No, I'm not allowed. But no, 8 off Jordan. Mr. Fatawu.
I give him a 5. I don't think he was effective yesterday. I think it was probably his worst performance in a Leicester shirt so far. I'm a bit worried because he doesn't seem to have carried on his sort of early form of the season. And he keeps trying that sort of cut inside and have a shot. And it, one time out of 10, it might work. But, realistically, I think that's probably also down to the striker not being in the box. I think, I don't think he was great. I think a 5 is fair. He needs to improve.
I have to say, I don't think. I mean, this is only the one game where he hasn't been particularly brilliant for me. I think he's been okay with the others. 110% agree with you again. Good God, we're going to have to stop doing this. It's like a loving, isn't it? But yeah, he has to stop always trying that, because the number of times that he can just play it off to another player who stood there, probably score. Although you could say that with AU with his goal against whoever it was we played before. So yeah, he has to learn to not always be doing that, because they know what he's going to do.
Yeah, and take on your fullback on the outside for a change. Mix it up a little bit. He's got the pace to do it.
Yeah. Well, you and Jordan, like that. A peculiar night for the Ringer. Well, while the team as a whole stepped it up a gear, he didn't go with them. He slowed the game down too much at times, and his decision-making was questionable. But there were still some very good passes in tight spaces, and he gave him a 5.
We don't do 5.5s. Yeah, no, so it's either a 5 or a 6, Locks.
Locks is just being an arsehole. If you said to Locks that Nottingham Forest are awful, he'd say they were brilliant just to argue with you. Right, up next, Monga.
I think 7. He was okay. He was, look, at one point he got elbowed in the face. I think that's what knocked him.
Yeah, no, that was a definite. I said that was a definite elbow, wasn't it?
Yeah, the ref missed it somehow, but it happens. The officiating in this league is god awful, as we all know. I think he was okay. Like, he wasn't. Excuse me, sorry, he wasn't man of the match. But a solid performance all around, and he just needs to add that sort of final ball and a little bit of added quality, and he'd be the starter in that position.
Yeah. I mean, I've said that he's back quite. He's better when he's coming on, but he started yesterday, and I thought he was better than the last time he started. And but we know he's not going to get as much game time as somebody that was 20 or 21 with his skills would, because of his situation at school. I'm sure sort of somebody's got somebody in the changing room doing his homework for him. But I mean, the talent this guy has got, it never. I mean, I watch him and I'm thinking, you're 16. How are you doing that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He says here, Jordan says he didn't see as much of the ball as he should have in the first half, because when he got it forward, his footwork was at standard extremely good. I don't get that. He should have in the first half, because when he got it, his footwork was at standard extremely good. Oh, I see. He didn't get the ball as much as he should have had because he was good. The final product was just a little lacking. Importantly, he didn't dive. He's agreed with you, Devon. He's agreed. Started off slow, but you're coming together now. Mr. God, this is going to start things. Daka.
So, realistically, if you take away the assist, it was a 4 at best, because look, you can see that a striker that makes those runs is good for the team. He was causing problems. There were times where his pace was causing issues for their defense, but overall, he still had a couple of opportunities, and there's one where he slid in and missed the ball by a couple of centimeters or whatever. He still had a couple of chances where he, if he'd have hit the ball properly, he probably would have scored, or maybe tested the keeper at the least. But I think a 5 is fair, because yes, he does try, he does press, and
he's very trying, isn't he?
Yeah, I think if he has some confidence, if he scores in the next sort of 3 or 4 games and he gets a run in the team, we might see a different Patson Daka, in all honesty.
Yeah.
But last night, I think a 5 is fair. I don't want to go too hard on him, because I don't think he was awful. I think he gets a lot of stick from fans because of who he is and what he's done in the past. But look, as a striker, we saw that if you've got a striker up front in those positions, we will create chances. We might not have got them on target, but we will create chances.
And I have to say, for me, look, like I said at the start, we are talking about, the proverbial, scoring in the brothel, but I thought he had a decent game last night. And I thought he had, and the criticism that he was getting in the post-match show, I don't think was necessary. Yes,
and he wasn't Luke Thomas bad, was he? Let's be honest.
No,
he shouldn't be anywhere near that score.
No, like you say, a couple of times he was Gaza-esque off touching the ball in, and his header wasn't the best. Let's be honest with you, but at least he got his head on it, which is more than Vestergaard does most of the time. And he's fast, and he worries the keepers. Like I say, he's not our answer as a striker, but fair. I think a lot of people were judging him on his time with us rather than that one game. And that one game, he was okay. Better than he normally is. He got a 6 off Jordan, so he doesn't agree with you. But he said, a topsy-turvy outing. At times his touch was really poor, and he played simple passes out for throw-ins. But he ran extremely hard and delivered a great assist just when fans were audibly showing their frustration. I mean,
that's a very good point about the passing, because his passing was diabolical yesterday. There was one moment where he had a simple pass out wide and he hit it out for a throw in, and we were all just like, "What? Hello?"
Yeah. I mean, Odd Fish there is giving him a -5.
It wasn't worse than Luke Thomas. So if he gets a -5, the Luke Thomas must be minus like a million, because he was the worst player on that pitch yesterday.
I think that sums up. And it's your opinion, Odd. You're entitled to it. But for me, that sums up what we were saying before about people are judging not on the performance. It's like when people say, "Who was your man of the match?" Jamie Vardy could have won 1-0 and he got the goal. Just anyway, don't start me off.
If you swap out Daka for Vardy in that performance, I would still give him a 5.
Yeah.
He
But this is the thing.
But he didn't really do anything else.
No, when Vardy had bad games, it's he's got money in the he's got credit in the bank. Doesn't care. It doesn't matter. He was shit in that game, but we couldn't criticise Jamie Vardy, could we? No. That would never be good. Anyway, substitutes. Let's have a look at these then. Christensen came on for Thomas. I like Christensen. I like Thomas. Christensen, Thomas. Fight! Do you remember that? You probably don't.
Yeah.
Harry Hill.
Oh, no, I remember it. We make that reference all the time in our house.
Yes, yeah, indeed.
Yeah, no. Me and my wife are very much of the old school TV shows, Bob Mortimer and all that sort of stuff. We love it. So
yeah, brilliant. I love a bit of ITV4, and Leicester showing the cycling. I thought he did all right, and I think that he will become our regular left back.
Yeah, I think he starts on Saturday. I think he will be our regular left back. I don't think either of them are good. I think they're both quite poor as footballers. But, because there was a moment yesterday where he also got sort of barged off the ball and they almost scored. He was not great, but I would take him over Luke Thomas all day, every day. He does offer that overlapping run and he can put a ball into the box. But... it's that situation earlier, Chris, where I said to you, it's like being punched in the face or kicked in the dick. Which one would I prefer? At this point, I'd rather be punched in the face with Christensen than kicked in the dick with Thomas. But, overall, I think
surely you'd see me punched in the face anyway out of those two options.
Well, I'm not going to have kids, so I don't really need the balls for anything. So, kick away at times,
If they're there, a bit like your tonsils, get rid of them.
So I think a 5 is fair. I think his performance was okay, but also room for improvement.
If Duck is watching this, do you know Duck?
I have not met him, but I know of him.
No. He's Danish, and we had an interesting chat once. Manny will remember this, as he was involved. And you cannot criticise Christensen. At that point we were saying Thomas was the better player. So if he's been listening to this, he's probably creaming as we speak. But
Better doesn't always mean like significantly better, though, does it? Let's be honest.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. He didn't have as much trouble with Kabori as Thomas did, but was guilty of a few defensive lapses. He got forward well to support the attackers, albeit didn't do a lot once he was there. And 5, you agree? Oh my God, I'm dreading this. I think I want to hide under the table.
Okay, so I give Oliver Skipper 2, and I'll tell you why.
Ooh.
He was a passenger last night. He got a yellow card, and I don't even remember how he got the yellow card, to be honest. But I watched him for a couple of minutes, and his passing was poor, and the ball just kept going past him. He wasn't. I don't think he's fit. I don't think he's fit enough to play at this level yet. He's lacking confidence. And look, maybe we swap him out for Locks and Skip goes, gets his hair done, gets the plugs in and he comes back a new man. But at this moment in time, I would keep Oliver Skip away from this team because he's bringing nothing at all. He's not good at passing. He's not good at defending. He doesn't track players well enough. He doesn't press well enough. He's I would say one of the worst players in the squad. And I don't know how we paid £25 million for him, Chris.
Wasn't it 21?
Well, up to 25. So, but I honestly, I don't understand how. I really don't.
I get what you're saying. And I thought that he was much maligned last year. We didn't really see enough of him to form an opinion because he was never getting the full games. And I wanted to see him with Winks, and then when I did see him with Winks, I never wanted to see them together again. And I mean, there is a way. I mean, to me, I want to say, summing Skip up. Is it easy to do it? Yes, it is.
If you don't want it, throw it in the rubbish.
Nice one.
Yeah.
So,
And I think we make a significant loss on him in the summer, and he moves to somewhere abroad. But look at his face. Look at him. Like, not even his grandma would love that face. He's burning at the camera because he just knows that there's nothing behind the eyes.
Yeah, I'm bold, but I'm 64. He's bold in his mid-20s, isn't he?
I'm 35, and I'm like, I've got the McDonald's M. That is happening. I am going bold, but I'm 35, and I'm happy just to shave it off. Skip, mate. You're in your 20s. Shave it off. You'll look so much better. We'll have so much more respect for you. Grow a beard. Grow a beard. It saves everyone.
That's what I did. That's when I was losing it up there. I got it down here. Again, I end up with an upside down head. And I think as well, Marty prefers Sumare anyway.
Good. And look, I would never thought I'd admit that I prefer Sumare over anybody else, but over Oliver Skip all day long. At this point, I would accept the blind man that occasionally comes to games with us that over Oliver Skip in that midfield, because at least he puts the effort in.
Oh dear. Good evening, Oliver, if you're watching. I can't remember how many we gave him now.
He's asleep. That's what he's right now. He's asleep.
He's a big fan of the show, I believe. No, what did you give him?
I gave him a 2.
A 2. He got a 4 off Jordan. He picked up a cheap yellow card and didn't really influence the game in a positive way. City lost their way when he came on and got a 4.
Yeah.
God, he got him out of the way. Mavididi came on, and I think we're always going to see Mavididi and Monga interchanging, aren't we?
We are, yeah. He slowed down the game. It's the same thing every week with Mavididi. He gets hold of the ball, and rather than sort of taking on his fullback, he slows down and tries the step over. It wasn't a terrible performance. I think he didn't really have a lot of time. Was it the 74th minute or something like he came on? Is that right?
I think it was. It was around that.
Yeah. So not a lot of time to influence the game. I think a 6 is fair. He's still lacking confidence, but hopefully, losing your place to a 16-year-old, it kicks him up the arse a little bit more.
Yeah, 68 to be precise, it was, but it was there or thereabout.
I just don't think he was good enough.
Yeah, it's a normal sort of time when them two swap, isn't it?
Yeah.
Steffi's confidence is shot, desperately needs a goal. Yeah, I probably agree with that, Manny. Probably agree. Mr. Ayew, when he came on.
Sorry, what did Jordan give Steffi?
What did Jordan give Steffi? Give him a 5.
Okay.
What did you give him?
I gave him a 6.
6, fair enough. Yeah. Sorry about that. Ayew.
Yeah, look, he was on for about 8 minutes. I don't really see a lot. There are times where he falls over and gets free kicks. I don't think he got one yesterday when he fell over.
He got a not applicable from Jordan. So
yeah, I would say NA is what I'd go for. There was one moment where he tried dribbling it past sort of 4 players, and then rather than passing the ball to an available midfielder, he fell over. So I should give him a score, but I don't think he was on for long enough for me to actually give him a genuine score.
I think I remember that because I was getting quite excited, and then what? Just pass the fucking ball, Yeah,
I say that all the time when he's on the ball.
Yeah. And Carranza also got a. He might not have even touched the ball. I'm not sure he did, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think he touched it once, from what I can remember. But again, an NA, I can't really. We go up top, and then we don't seem to do anything with the strikers when they go up top anyway. So overall, I can't give him a score because again, didn't really influence the game.
Came on. Both of those came on in the 82nd minute. I think you said earlier, desperate.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, once you go to up top, that's sign that your tactics aren't working and that you're trying to, you're trying desperately to win the game. But then when we did that, we didn't really put the ball forward. So, you could be desperate, but you need to put the ball in the box still.
Yes. Oh, indeed. Look, we hit praise on him. Oh, can I just say, 1, 2, 3, 1. Hang on a second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Seven agreements you had with him. Okay. So an improvement on last week. You agreed with him more last week. You're filling in for Bradwell. The manager. We heap praise on him, and he's been magical with the subs, and he's got a plan B. Just wasn't his night last night, though, was it?
No, I think it's fair to criticise him when he makes decisions that don't go well. I think overall the performance in the first half, I would have given him a sort of 7 or 8 out of 10. But when he made the substitutions and we took the foot off the gas, the game changed, in my opinion, and we didn't look like we were scoring a second. So I give him a 5. He's middle of the road. Some room for improvements, and I think he knows that there's room for improvement as well. But again, as I said at the beginning of the show, this isn't his squad, in my opinion. It's still the remnants of 3 or 4 other managers. I still support it.
Yeah, so I do, and I think we. Well, let me ask you this, because I did a show the other day, and I asked the question: did we dodge a bullet with Mr. Potter?
Well, in the Premier League, definitely, because I don't think he would have done great in the Premier League. I don't think he'd have come to us in the Championship. He probably would come to us now in the Championship, to be honest, because I don't know where his next job will be. It might be abroad. But overall, I think we probably dodged a bullet with Danny Roll, by the looks of it, because he's not been linked with anybody else that I can see. And he's saying the right things, but you also need to back it up. If you say that you're gonna progress and play attacking football like he did on Radio Leicester, actually his interview at the beginning of the season, I don't think we've seen many of that as of yet. So, Marty, if you are listening, can we just be a bit more attacking with the ball? Can we stop the little tippy tapping, between defenders? Because I don't want to fall asleep at a football match, but I might. And I've got a long drive on Saturday, and I haven't won an away game or seen an away game win in over a year now. I don't want to fall asleep watching that.
Your
game.
fault. I've told you before.
It is my fault. If we don't win on Saturday, I will take blame for the curse, right? But I don't want to have to drive down there, take a 90-minute nap just to drive back 4.5 hours again. It's not what I want on my Saturday, especially during a storm.
Let me ask you this then. It's December. We are sat in 12th, 13th in the table. Do you make the change and approach Potter again?
No. I don't think we. I said on Twitter that within 2 years we probably would have Graham Potter as our
You
manager.
did. That's why I asked you
Top,
the question.
yeah, Top has a hard on for Graham Potter for some reason.
Yes. Yeah.
I think that you can't sack the manager in December when you've given him 1 day of the transfer window to bring players in. Really.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
Yeah,
you've got to give him January and hope maybe bring players in and move some more players on. I don't know if we'll do many business in January, but I think you need to give him another transfer window at least, if not 2 transfer windows, because there will be a big change in the summer, and that's when he's had a year at the club. He gets what the ownership's like and the board's like and the players that he's got around him in the academy. You give him that extra sort of summer. And if we don't go up, we don't go up. Look, as long as we don't lose in the playoff final against Coventry, I'm happy. Honestly, if we get to the playoff final and we lose to Coventry, you will see a reaction that I've never had before in a football match. But I think you've got to back him. You've got to keep hold of him. And if there's any Leicester fans out there that think I'm talking shit, that's fine. I accept that you have an opinion that's different to mine. That's the way the world is. We've all got opinions. We've all got arseholes. I don't speak out of mine, but you guys might. So,
Oh, okay. No, that was completely my attitude on the post match. I got really annoyed on the post match on the watch along, and it is probably a case of if I can find it. Which I can't at the moment. Oh, here we go. Definitely a case of this.
Your opinion is wrong.
Yeah.
Very, very quickly, we're going to come on to team ratings and everything, but very, very quickly, Matty James it sounded like he was given a good reception.
Yeah, he was. A lot of fans stood up. I always stand at games, so I was already stood up because I'm in safe standing. But there were a lot of fans that stood up and clapped him onto the pitch. I just wish he'd been slightly shitter because he looked like he was dictating the play when he came on, and that's what you want from a midfielder. He's not as quick as he used to be.
Yeah.
But overall, I think he's he definitely goes down as one of our favoured personnel. I don't think he's a legend. That gets knocked around a lot. A legend is like Jamie Vardy and Muzzy Izzet sort of level.
Yes.
Steve Walsh. And then I don't think he fits into the sort of icon, sort of the NDD, that sort of area. I think he's in the next tier below that, where we all like him, we all wish him well, but
Right, all right then. Drinkwater or James? Because I thought when they were both playing, and they were playing as those two together, obviously a certain Canty came along and stuck his oar in. I actually preferred Matty James to Danny Drinkwater.
I think Matty James was a technically better player in the sense of that he could do more things than Drinkwater. Drinkwater was a very good passer of the ball, and it helped that he didn't have an injury record like Matty James. The injuries he had at Leicester were really unfortunate because I think he would have been a very good player for us. I think he was better defensively and he could attack. But I think if you were to ask me who I would prefer in that midfield, just because of what we achieved, I'd have to pick Drinkwater.
Yeah, I understand that. Well, what would you give the team?
A 5.
A 5.
Yeah. I think first half, great. Second half, not so great.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what I gave them. Oh, I won't tell you.
Was it 7?
It was a 7. Yeah. Only because the first half was good. As I said, the best half of football we've seen this season, and we've seen probably in a season and 6 games, if I'm honest with you. But the second half wasn't as bad as I think everybody said. You were goal down, and you can't expect the opposition not to try and do something to block you. But yes, you should be good enough to make changes to cancel their changes. But yeah,
the reason I said 5 is because look, Marty came out and said that the players were too arrogant. So I think you have to take that on board and say, look, if he thinks that it was terrible in the second half, then you've got to take that.
Yeah. Alan, who was at the match with you, he gave them a 6. So yeah, 5, 6. It's potato, isn't it? Craig's giving them a 6 as well. Your man of the match. I think we know where this is going.
Yeah, JJ for me. Outstanding.
Now, Alan didn't agree with you. Kind of get where this is going to, but
Harry Winks. Yeah. To be fair, yeah, I would say that for me they were on par, but JJ gets the goal, so that's why he's slightly ahead. But I think Winks I wouldn't complain if Winks got man of the match either.
No, I have to say, I don't know if Alan will be watching or not, but I think Alan is just getting lazy because I think he's copying and pasting because for the last 3 matches it's been 6 and Winks. I can almost put it up before he even sends it me in, but there we go. And there's the table. And look, all this doom and gloom. And look, there we are in 5th place.
Yes, we are in 5th place, and we've only lost 1 game this season. But Ipswich are picking up points now, and as I said to you on Monday, I want more points because of the potential points deduction. So that's the only reason why I'm like, look, we need to get as many points on the board because if we get a 3-point deduction now, we're in the relegation zone. So 12 points behind or whatever it is that we'd be behind Stoke City. So that's where I'm at.
Just to quickly, because I'm saying we're 5th, but of course there are games that have been played tonight.
Yeah.
And so I will actually just update that. We'll have a look at that in a second. Millwall 0, Coventry 4.
Yep.
Norwich 0, West Brom 1. Portsmouth 2, Watford 2. Queen's Park Rangers 0, Oxford United 0. And I have got to say, in my prediction league this season, so last night I got 0 out of 3. Millwall Coventry I got wrong. Portsmouth Watford I got wrong, and QPR Oxford I got wrong. So I got all my Super 6 wrong last night, not a single fucking point.
Well, if it helps, I got 0 right tonight, but I got 2 right yesterday, so I'm happy with that.
I think I got one correct outcome. And let's just, like I say, we'll just update it because that was yesterday's table. We are in 6th now. West Brom have gone above us into 4th. But look, we're only 3 points off 2nd still. So, and if I'd said at the end of last season, 130 days ago, so it's not that long, if I'd have said to you 130 days ago, we'll have played 8 games, we'll be sat in 6 and only lost 1. You'd have bitten me hand off, wouldn't you? Yes, you would. Don't deny that you would. Yes, you bloody would.
I wouldn't.
Yes, when we finished the season and we still had Rude as manager, we didn't know where that was going. We'd broken all those records, that I said earlier, and I'd given you 6 after 8 games. You would have taken it.
I would personally have taken an extra 3 points in that. I think if you'd have got 4 wins, 3 draws, and 1 defeat, then I'd have been more happy with that.
But not knowing who we're going to be playing in what order or anything,
No, I agree. But if you were saying to me, you'd be.
But no, let me put it this other way. Then you wouldn't have been disappointed with it, would you?
I wouldn't have been disappointed, but I also wouldn't have been elated with it.
No.
I'm 5 out of 10.
Yeah, because you know that we've got that points deduction around the corner, and that's really going to fuck us up. Probably.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I get that.
If you'd said to me we were 8 games in and we were 8 points, we'd won 8 games, I'd have been like, fucking hell, here we go.
Yes.
But if you said to me we've been 8 games in and we lost 8 games, I'd be like, fucking hell, here we go. So
yeah. I know what you mean. Like I say, disappointed, but we're not. We're not talking about jumping off the roof just yet.
Yeah, I would say room for improvement.
Yeah, exactly. Steve, thank you very much, mate. It's been a pleasure having you on. We managed to make it as long as it is when we've also got Brad in here, which is something. But it has been a little bit different tonight. Drive carefully down to Swansea. You better bring 3 points back, otherwise we will be blaming you. And we'll see you Monday at 6:00.
You will indeed.
Thanks so much, mate. Take care. Thank you. Cheers. Bye-bye. Okay, thanks very much there, to Steve. Yeah, please do all the normal things. It does really, really, really help us. So do like the video. It helps with the algorithms. I think they're a bit fucked up at the moment. Subscribe, share, even if you're watching on catch up and you're listening via your favourite podcast platform. Muchas gracias. And we will see you tomorrow night at 6 for the Prediction League. Stay safe. Come on, you foxes. Good night.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You better like them too, or I'll be back.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.